What I'm about to share with you in this video won't only help you significantly lower the trading stress and negative emotions you're going to experience, but it's also going to help you improve your bottom line and make more money as a trader. And on top of that, it's going to help you become a more efficient trader, meaning you're going to be spending less time at the screen and you're going to be making more money because of it. Now, there's a particular concept or idea that's going to help you do this, but I don't want you to hear it from me. I want you to hear it from Warren Buffett.
I can look at 1,000 different companies, and I don't have to be right on every one of them or even 50 of them. So I can pick the ball I want to hit. And the trick in investing is just to sit there and watch pitch after pitch go by and wait for the one right in your sweet spot. And if people are yelling, "Swing, you bum," ignore them. There's a temptation for people to act far too frequently in stocks simply because they're so liquid. Over the years, you develop a lot of filters. And I do know what I call my circle of competence. So I stay within that circle, and I don't worry about things that are outside that circle. Defining what your game is, where you're going to have an edge, is enormously important.
So what I'm going to share with you in this video is how you can go off and identify specifically your circle of competence as a trader. I'm going to show you some ideas that you can implement into your trading right now so that you can start to embody this principle in your trading. You can lower your trading stress and negative emotions because now you're trading less crappy setups. I'm going to show you how you can start to make more money with less screen time because now you've zeroed in on your circle of competence, your top quality trades, and you're trading those with greater size. So I'm going to bring up the iPad. I'm going to start to share some ideas with you that are going to help you implement this into your trading. Now, one very quick analysis that any trader can do right now to start to implement this idea of your circle of competence is you can bring up your previous trading data and you can ask yourself first and foremost a very simple question of what's working? Let me have a look at my previous trading data. Let me have a look at the pairs or the stocks or the indices or the cryptos or the commodities or the future markets that I trade, and what's working in terms of the markets I trade, and what markets does my particular strategy perform very well in, and also what time zones work well. What time zones tend to have more liquidity with my particular strategy in the markets I'm trading? And what time zones do I tend to have higher profitability in? And then also what setups do I take in these particular time zones in these particular markets that work very well? Maybe it's your higher quality setups at the edge of structures or with the market, the higher time frame market in terms of a trending market. If you're pro-trend, the setups tend to work better when they're pro-trend as opposed to counter-trend. And you're doing a very simple analysis and you're asking yourself, what's working in terms of the markets I trade, the time zones I trade, the setups that I trade, what works very well? The next question you want to be asking yourself is, what's not working? And sometimes what's not working is so blatantly obvious, but you never see it because you never stop to ask yourself the question of what's not working. And you want to ask yourself in terms of the same questions: the market you're trading, the time zones, the setups. In particular, I remember doing an analysis like this in my own trading, and there was one particular setup or there was one particular style I was trading, and it came very obvious to me that for that particular style, for me, commodities, gold in particular, didn't perform very well. It just didn't move the way that the style required the market to move to capitalize on moves. I found very early on that the Asian session just didn't have much liquidity when I was trading FX and some indices. And if I just didn't trade the Asian session, I would have higher profitability. And there was also setups I found that were further into the trending move that just didn't perform as well. I found that with my particular style, the way I like to trade, the setups that tend to work very well are the ones that came from the initial 1, 2, 3, and I was capturing the third leg of the Elliott wave move. So setups that were closer to the edge of structures. And I was able to make refinements to my trading plan and to the trading setups I took, because I did this analysis and I found these ideas out. And guess what? By asking these questions over time, you start to zero in and funnel down into your circle of competence. And there may be many, many setups that you trade and many, many styles and many, many markets that you trade initially. But as you trade those more and more, and as you start to get more and more data and you start to ask yourself quality questions like what's working, what's not working, you can start to funnel your setups down into your particular circle of competence. And more specifically, your circle of competence is what works for you, your risk appetite, your time zones, your lifestyle. You're factoring all those components in when you're identifying your circle of competence. So it's really about asking yourself what's working and how can I do more of it? Or what's working and how can I trade this at greater size, greater lot size, greater risk, greater capital behind me? And what's not working and how can I do less? Or how can I reduce my position sizing with this? There's a client that I'm working with currently, and we have found his circle of competence in terms of what works very, very well. But we've also found that there are some setups that perform, they still perform well, they still have a positive expectancy, but the strike rate on those setups are much less. And sometimes the losses affect them psychologically. So what we've decided to do is to still take those positions, but reduce the position size on those positions. Because we've identified for them what their circle of competence is. Now, just outside that circle of competence, there's still a medium quality setup that they can take, but the strike rate's a lot less. So we're still trading that setup, but at a reduced position sizing. Now, you can only get to that level of self-awareness, you can only get to that level of refining your trading plan and circle of competence if you do the analysis. Another great question to be asking yourself is, what are the 20% of setups I'm taking, or the markets I'm trading, or the pairs I'm trading that are yielding me 80% of my results? This is an 80-20 Pareto laws analysis. And if you can find what that 20% is, and you can specialize in that 20%, and you can trade that 20% at greater size, then you're identifying and you're zeroing in on your circle of competence. And there will also be an 80% that yields you 20% of your results. All right? You're wasting all this time and energy and you're putting all this effort into trying to capture the 80%. That's only yielding you 20% of your results. And you can start to do less of this. You can start to do more of that. And by doing this analysis every 3 months, every 6 months with the data you already have available to you, it's just in your broker, it's sitting there in your brokerage, you can start to zero in and identify what specifically your circle of competence is. And I think this is what Warren Buffett has done throughout his life and his career, is that he's traded multiple different ways, and the way he was trading and analyzing companies and stocks back in the day is probably slightly differently to how he's doing it now. Because over time he's learnt from his mistakes, he's made refinements, and he's zeroed in on his circle of competence based on what works and based on what doesn't. And if you can do this as a trader, you start to differentiate yourself from the other 95% of traders, and you start to rise up as the top echelon of trader, and you start to scale up, and you start to do very, very well. Because another thing traders don't recognize is that when they come into the markets, there's no elementary, there's no primary step as a trader. You go straight into the markets and you're competing against the biggest players in the game. So to take every setup or to trade every sort of good entry you see, you're putting yourself at a significant disadvantage as a trader. It's much wiser to identify what your circle of competence is and specialize in it, and have the goal of becoming a master at trading that particular setup and knowing it better than anybody else out there. And when you do that, you start to be able to compete with some of these bigger banks and bigger guys out there that are trading bigger size and have faster execution, and you start to scale up, and you put size behind your setups, and you start to make a significant amount of money from your circle of competence. So my little message from today's video is identify and specialize in your circle of competence. So much so that you start to put more and more size behind the positions you're trading. You start to scale up significantly and you start to draw more money from the markets. And I guarantee if you follow that framework, you're going to have less stress in the market, because now you're not trying to capture all setups and you're not experiencing as many losses. Your strike rate goes up. So you lower your stress and you lower your negative emotions. You make more money because now you're able to put more size behind the setups that you have certainty in. And you have less screen time because now you're not trying to capture all these different setups. You're focused in on just your circle of competence and you're making more money because of it. Okay? If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out the free resources in the description. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.